Giariv, Fáilte. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. I'm Anthony Murphy of Mythical Ireland. This is episode 54, and we've had 54 consecutive episodes from March the 12th until today. Hope you're all having a great day. And it is Bealtaine, and it is, of course, very fast approaching the official time of Bealtaine, which occurs in a few hours' time. Tonight's episode is all about the celebration of Bealtaine and about the history of it, and a little bit about how far back it goes, perhaps, and perhaps some of the astronomy and cosmology behind it, as well as the modern day and more recent celebrations thereof. Tomorrow evening, we will be having a live Myths episode about Ishnok, and the following evening about Eru. Hope you're all well anyway. Welcome along. Fáilte. Loads of people already commenting. Daisy Peters is the first on YouTube. Daisy is always watching from Rio de Janeiro, the River of January in Brazil. Fáilte, Daisy. Very good evening to you. Mandy McCurl says, hello, vo elach grenach vuile. Kiamar ada shiv. Hello from the sunny Isle of Mull. How are you all? Tá goma, Mandy, and I'm sure everybody else will account for themselves, and hopefully everybody else is in fine fettle too. Mary Smith says, good evening. Fáilte, Mary, Aria, or Trononowa. Aria Ivancic Art, ready. Banachti o Milano, Northern Italy. This is Aria. Ciao, Aria. You're very welcome along. Connor Puckle says, Banachti o Galliv Anton August Toa MythFlix. Blessings from Galway, Anthony, and the MythFlix family or tribe. Beautiful day for a stroll by the Corrib. It was lovely here today, except for we had a very strong and cool onshore breeze coming in from the Irish Sea here in Droichead Áha in Glan na Bóinne. Natty Lopez says, hi everybody. Rainy autumn afternoon in Buenos Aires. Perfect for some tea and stories. Hope everyone's keeping safe. Hello, Natty. Yes, keeping safe and well so far. Thank you very much. Erica River Tree, Bannock the old Louisville in Kentucky. Lovely weather today. Erica, always a pleasure to see you. Jay McHugh says, hi all from a sunny Hoth. Ben Ether. Hello, Jay. John Main says it's sunny in San Francisco today. So if you're going there, always wear the flowers in your hair. Fáilte, John. And on Facebook, Yvette Tillema is the first of tonight's helloers. Fáilte, Yvette. Aaron Durrett is watching. Barbara Barney says, hi. Hello, Barbara. Jack Durkin, happy Bealtaine, everyone. Law, Fela, Bealtaine. Well, that was, I suppose in modern times, it's celebrated on May the 1st. Cara Richard says, hello. Fáilte, Cara. Judy McQueen says, hello. Gia Glitch, Jim Conway, Gias Murraglitch, Jim Conway in Lurgan. Thank you, Jim. Jack Durkin, 0049 Bealtaine. Yeah, so it's, what is it? It's just under 5 hours away from the official moment. Merit Baron Schmid says hi from Switzerland. Giagwich Merit, nice to have you along. Shannon Winokur is in the house. Hi, Anthony. Happy Bealtaine to you. Many happy returns to you, Shannon. Lovely to see you. Alex Casterton says, good evening. Happy Anthony. Happy Bealtaine. Wee. Looking forward to this show. Hope you like the Gaelic app I shared with you all. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to install it yet, Alex. I actually spent most of the day writing. I'm writing a new book, and at this stage, actually, I think I'm over the 48,000 word mark, so it's going well. Mike, I'm not sure whether Jeanette is with you. Michael Naylor is in New Jersey. Says it's a beautiful day there. Brilliant to hear that, Michael. Aaron Durrett, happy Bealtaine, our friends. Thank you for this time, Anthony. Glad to give it. Margaret Kiernan says, good evening all. What a glorious evening it is. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's bright. It's dry. It's sunny. What more can we say? Nick Eska Casterton. Hi, Anthony. Hope you had a great evening last night. Hello, Tua. Hope you're all okay. Yes, we had a lovely night, a lovely celebration of the twins' birthday. We now have 5 adults in the house. There are only 2 children left. 7 of us here. The day before yesterday, we had 5 children. We had 4 children and 3 adults. Now we've 5 adults and 2 children. Todd Desperate says, hello, Anthony, and everyone. Fáilte, Todd. Lucy Robinson, good evening, Anthony. Evening all. Devon checking in, armed with a glass of red vino and a slab of chalk. Living dangerously. Sounds great, Lucy. I hope you enjoy it. Hope the stories live up to the food choices. Kelly Minich is watching. Fáilte, Kelly. Caro Eck says, hey, from Utah. Fáilte, Caro. You're very welcome along. Patricia McAteer is watching, one of our locals in Condelu. Rowan Grove, hello from a sunny and windy Colorado. Exactly the same as the weather in Drogheda today, Rowan. Anya Waldron is in Saratoga Springs in New York. Fáilte, Anya. Teresa McGuinness says, hi all from Florida, where I think it's always sunny in Florida, except for those few times in the year when you get a bit of hurricane activity. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. Siobhan Dunn says, hi from Ireland. Do you ever get snow in Florida in the winter, Teresa? Siobhan Dunn says, hi from Ireland. Fáilte, Siobhan. Pat Rowan is in the house. Nice Bealtaine to all. Hi, Pat. Serena Swift says, hello. Jigwich, Serena. Megan Walters is sharing fire and honeybees and flowers and sun. Yeah, that looks appropriate. Freya Sjoholm says, Banachty, Anthony, and beautiful Tua. Movanach Ort Freya. Matt Byrne is watching. Hi, Matt. Melanie Lynn is also watching. Hello, Melanie. Always a pleasure. Barbara Kling says, hello, Anthony, everyone. Greetings from rainy Vermont. Yes, it's raining in Vermont. Okay, well, fáilte, Barbara. Pull up a stool and grab yourself a dram or a brew. Nora Gaffney O'Connor says, Giariv go lair. Hello, Nora. Alan Bryett says, Giarich Anthony and Tua here from Rhode Island. Hello, Alan. In the smallest estate in the States, but there are good goods in small parcels, as we say. Sharon Bogan Stitch says, greetings, Anthony and Tua from Redding, California. Hello, Sharon. Mariana Dunn says, hello, Anthony from sunny Alexandria in Virginia, and to the Tua. Fáilte, Mariana. Federica Guy, hi, Anthony. Hi, Tua. Happy Bealtaine. Ciao, Federica, and happy Bealtaine. Sherilyn McFetridge is in Boston. Cheers and love from Boston. Fáilte, Sherilyn. Barb Jordan is also in Florida, where it never snows and there are crocodiles. Camilla Relland is watching. Hi, Camilla. Lovely to see you again. Heather White says, afternoon. Giagwich. Dennis O'Hara. Hello, Anthony and everyone. Sorry, it's not Dennis. It's Doris. I apologize for my bad reading. Matt Byrne says, evening all. Tronona what, Matt? Heather Gerhon Rice says, out front, enjoying the sun after hours of pulling ivy in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Well, sit down and relax now, Heather, and enjoy yourself for a while. Marion Jackson is saying blessings from the Connecticut woods. Sounds lovely. Hi, Marion. Donna Jean Porter says, hi, Giagwich, Donna. Megan Walters, warm and sunny here today in Mississippi. Hello, Tua and Anthony. Fáilte. Megan Demi Woe says it's beautiful. Also in Colorado. Hello, all. Fáilte. Melanie Lynn. Hello, Anthony, and all of the Tua. Delighted to see you, Melanie. Tom King says, evening, Anthony and the Tua. Story time. Looking forward. Brilliant. Laura McCormick. Yay, from sunny Killinall South Tip, we can hear in the distance some lovely Irish Kjol. Could be the little people celebrating May Bealtaine. Virtual hugs to the Tua. And returned in equal amount, Laura. Rowan Grove. I just posted a Samhain painting of mine over on the Mythical Ireland community page for the folks south of the equator. Interesting stuff. Josephine Meehan says, Trononawa, Anthony and Tua. Fáilte, Josephine. Katrina is in the house. La bui Bealtaine gachdina. Hello, Katrina. Camilla Ralland says, happy Bealtaine all from Copenhagen in Denmark. Brilliant stuff. Donna K. Kelly says, hello, anxious for this episode. Anxious as in excited or anxious as in afraid? I'm sure it's excited. Jessica Razia Kenny says, hi from Cork. Corky is in the house. Fáilte, Jessica. Gillian Gogarty is watching from across the street. Are definitely our closest viewer, unless my wife comes on or one of my kids. Jack Durkin says, good evening, everyone. Carol Barrett. My mom is a scullion from Lurgan. There you go. Good evening, Carol. Jack Durkin, 100 viewers. Oh, 104. Wow. Nolan Proctor says, hello from Pennsylvania. Mary Bealtaine. Hello, Nolan. Nice to see you. Movanwe Millward says, Tronona Matua. I'm practicing with Google Translate. I'll be trying that app, Alex. Brilliant stuff, Movanwe. Carol Barrett says, Giagriv, Tua, August, Anthony, Fáilte, Carol. Adele Perth, good evening, good morning, and good day. I'm delighted to make another live. Happy Bealtaine and all. And Adele, of course, is in Adelaide, where it is probably still dark, Adele, am I right? Not even time for the birds to sing yet in the morning. Fantastic stuff. Ralph Waldron is in Athleague, where it's a beautiful evening. And I can assure you that, as Ralph has stated in the past, Athleague is the finest town in Ireland. Thalia Brown says, hello, Anthony and Tua. Happy Bealtaine. Lovely evening from Glastonbury. Brilliant. Thank you, Thalia. Lots of connections with Bridget and Patrick in Glastonbury. Mark Ledger says, "Good day from Townsville, North Australia. Again, looking forward to a fire on Bealtaine." Brilliant stuff, Mark. Great pleasure to see the Australians in the house. Macy Damon says, "Hello, tribe, Fáilte." Louise Sherrill says, "Hello, Shugwich." Louise. Jules Cousins says, "Hi from East Sussex." Hi, Jules. Always a great pleasure to see you. Arant Zazu Martinez says, "Fire at Ishnok tomorrow at 21:21 Irish time. People joining with small fire or candle on." Yes, and we're exactly planning to do the same. We're going to, after our episode tomorrow evening, I'm going to light our fire here and live stream it. And I've invited everybody to do the same. Light a fire, make a video, take pictures, share them to the Ishnok page and share them on the Mythical Ireland community. Jackie Stevenson says, "Hello, Anthony and all. Couldn't get on YouTube today." That's okay. At least you have an alternative, Jackie. Fáilte. Kelly Sewell. "Happy Bealtaine. Snow in the forecast tonight in Vermont." Ooh. Still making snowmen at Bealtaine, are we? Maeve Fina Callahan says, "Hello to a happy Bealtaine Eve." And same back to you, Maeve. Desiree Riley, happy late birthday to the twins. Missed the live episode yesterday. Happy to make it today. And we're always happy to have you along, Desiree. Thank you. And Aran Zazu, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, says, "Hi, Anthony. Happy Bealtaine." And the same back to you. Jack Durkin says, "Facebook is better." Betsy Rhodes is in Savannah in Georgia, where it is hot. Betsy, welcome along. Hopefully you can stay cool. John McAndrew says, "Good afternoon. Nice to hear you again." Fáilte, John. Charlene is having difficulties. Can't seem to get it to unfreeze since first minute. No sound or picture. I would say maybe restart your app, Charlene, and if not, restart your phone, or if you're watching on a PC, maybe do the same thing. Always follow the first piece of advice from the IT department. Switch it off and switch it back on again. Kelly Sewell says, "It's not raining where I am in Vermont yet, but the clouds are building up. I heard it did snow in Florida a few years ago. They lost quite a few oranges." Okay. Deborah Allen is in Wisconsin. Lovely to have Wisconsin in the house, Deborah. Fáilte. Pull up a stool. Dave Russell says, "Hi, gang. I'm learning loads, Anthony. I appreciate all you do." I'm also genuinely learning loads, Dave. And these episodes have shown me the huge gaps that exist in my own knowledge. And I'm really, really happy to be trying to fill in those gaps. I did quite a lot of writing today. Sorry, I just need to move some things out of the way here. Sorry about this. I need to move this across to here so that I'm not looking at there. And yes. And I've just realized, how much I either didn't know or that I had read at some point and forgotten, and it takes me a while to get everything in there. I need to read and reread and write about stuff before it actually finally stays in there, Veronica Casey says, "Evening, everyone. Tranonawa." Veronica. Scotty Farrington says, "Happy Bealtaine, tribe from Chile Erie Peninsula," which is just a misspelling of Era. E-I-R-E. Brilliant. Scotty is in misspelt Era. You can just say you're from Ireland, Scotty. Deborah Alland, "It's almost officially Bealtaine." Exactly. It's only a few hours away. Jim Conway says, "I'm from Shankill, Lurgan. What is her first name?" This is in relation to the lady who said she's a scullion from Lurgan. There's a Jim Conway who's in Lurgan who's asking more questions. Maybe you can interact with each other. Kathy May Deo says, "Good evening, Anthony. Kathy here from Newcastle, Washington State, USA. Again, always a great pleasure, Kathy. Fáilte. Hope you're comfortable." No, Adele says, "Not even the birds are awake yet in Adelaide." Margaret Rings in the house. "Good evening to everyone. Tranonawa, Fáilte more," Margaret. Patricia Healy Sullivan. "To our friends, spring in Vermont is one day in May. Not today, though." Hopefully. We have had fantastic weather since the lockdown. It's been really sort of strange from one perspective, I suppose. But it's been a blessing, too, because it's made things just a little bit easier. Nancy Nee Hannafin says, "Beantown here. We was supposed to be celebrating Bealtaine in Dunquin this week. Well. I'm getting my taste of it now. Thank you. Glad to do what we can, Nancy, to assuage your difficulties." Colorado does that sometimes, says Rowan Grove. I'm not sure what that is. It's in reference to something we were maybe saying about the weather. Henry! Paddy Shearman is here in the house. Hello, Henry. We've been encouraged to not light bonfires here. But where there's a will, there's a way, says Veronica. Veronica, I was just saying to people, if you can't light a fire in a chimney or a little grate or something, light a candle indoors. You know, it doesn't have to be a big blazing fire, you know. Nancy Ann says, hello from Vero Beach in Florida. Trononawat. Nancy. Jennifer Foley says, good afternoon, everyone. Trononawat, Jennifer. Krista Meve says, good evening from Flanders in Belgium. Fáilte, Krista. Grace Walker says, oh, hi all. Giagwich, Grace. Okay. Dawn Hilton is saying, love from Lancashire. Happy Bealtaine for tomorrow, everyone. Giagwich, Dawn. Serena Swift, supposed to rain here in Western Washington tomorrow. If it does, it's a fire in the fireplace for me. If not, it will be outside. Yeah, good point. There's always the lighting of the fire indoors in the grate. Grace Walker says, sorry, I'm late. There's no problem. We haven't started officially yet. We're still doing, after 15 and a half minutes, we're still doing introductions. Francis Tute is watching. Fáilte, Francis. Hope you're all set up for all the celebrations tomorrow. And hopefully we can do our best to join in and help with all that. Okay, Jack Durkin is late. There's no such thing as late, Jack. A wizard arrives with precisely what he means to. A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Ishnok, yep, thanks for sharing that message, Anthony. Well, always my great delight to help my wonderful friends in Ishnok, which has a very, very, very special place in my heart. And I look forward to the day when our restrictions are lifted to the extent that I can actually go back to Ishnok. And when I do, I will get down on the ground on my hands and knees and I will kiss the very earth of Ishnok. Okay. Christine Smith is in Iowa. Fáilte, Christine. Love the candle idea, says Deborah. Yes, exactly. It doesn't have to be a fire. And if it's raining or you can't safely light a fire outside, then a candle will do fine. June Crane says, hey, hail from North Carolina. Thank you for this blessing. Have my fire pit ready. Love to all the tua. And graw more right back to you, June. Adina Spark says, late. Hello, everyone. A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. or a wizardess or a bandry is never late, Adina. Don't be worrying and don't be apologizing. As Katrina says, this is a no-brome zone. Definitely summer coming here in Sacramento in California, says Laura Mullen. It's in the high 80s. My tomatoes and cucumbers have blossoms and my son has zucchini babies already. I'm not exactly sure what zucchini is. Forgive me, silly me, for not knowing. Bealtaine fire tonight. Brilliant. Nan Ash has Hell's Gate in Idaho, and it's sunny and warm. Shouldn't it always be sunny in a place called Hell's Gate? Joke. Poor joke. Fáilte, Nan. Paul Gowan says, evening, friends. Just finished up making a spirit house for a Thai Buddhist friend. Not a normal task for me. Wow, sounds fascinating. Movanwe says, was that a Gandalf impression? It was an attempt at a Gandalf impression. It might have been a poor one. I'll film it, says Ishna. Brilliant. Rain will not stop us, says Serena Swift. Mal means late or slow. Tog Goboge is our motto. Annie Newton says, hi, everyone. Fáilte, Annie. Veronica says, my dad used to kiss the Irish ground when he returned home every time with a green heart. Lovely. Let's go then. Yes. Let's go then. Says Erin. Let's go. Let's skip all these introductions. No, let's say hello to everyone. Oh, my God. And now YouTube is packed with them. Oh, I can't catch up. I can't keep up, and we are 18, almost 19 minutes. Who did I miss? Lisa O'Hare says, hello there, Bealtaine wishes to you all. Fáilte, Lisa, Sandrine, Brady. Whoa, just on time, was making crepes. Nice to be back with you all. Couldn't miss your story of telling of Law Bealtaine. Happy birthday to your twins, Sandrine, Orleans, France. Hello, Sandrine. Snapper Earl was up from the beautiful Hudson Valley. Fáilte, Snapper Earl. Erica Bow says, good afternoon. Trononoa, Erica. Ronald McFadden is in Los Angeles, and he says, hello. Hello back to you. Colleen Bawn. Hello, everybody. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, too, living in Ouro Preto nowadays. May you all have a blessed Bealtaine. And the same back to you, white girl. Colleen Bawn. Daisy Peters, who we said hello to earlier on, is saying hello to Colleen Bawn. Chase is in Brooklyn, in New York. Fáilte, Chase. Mandy McCurl, yes. Jackie Stevenson, zucchini is a courgette. I also have tomatoes and zucchini plants. Brilliant stuff. Okay. Joey McD, hey there. Did Did yard work yesterday. Made a Bridget cross today. Nothing goes to waste. Haha. Brilliant stuff, Joey. Right, I need to get on with it. Right, so we're going to talk about Bealtaine. So Bealtaine, what is Bealtaine? 20 minutes. Okay, we'll take a note of that because I need to say that to the YouTubers, the grumpy ones who don't like having to listen to all the comments. Bealtaine. What do we say about Bealtaine? Well, look, first thing to say is some of this is going to be completely off the cuff and unscripted. The first thing to say is that Bealtaine is a very ancient festival. I believe it to be not only pre-Christian but prehistoric. I believe it to go all the way back to the Neolithic. There are reasons for that which are expounded upon in some of my written work, especially in my book Mythical Ireland, in relation to, for instance, Samhain and Imbolc alignment of Cairn L at Cairnban or Cairnban West in Loughcrew. But I would say the same about Cairn S on Sliabh na Caille, which is aligned to Bealtaine sunset and Lunasa sunset. And of course, I would say the same about Drone Hench, being aligned to Bealtaine sunsets and Lunasa sunsets. For me, there's evidence that this festival goes all the way back to the Neolithic. Now, that is disputed by modern archaeological, anthropological, archaeoastronomical scholars. But despite that dispute, I am sticking by my guns and saying that it is truly prehistoric. How do I know this? I can't be entirely sure, but as I said, the passageways of some of the monuments would appear to be, although some scholars think they're only approximately aligned, there's something very, very specific that happens at Cairn L, which leads me to believe that it's much more than mere chance that this is the case. What is Bealtaine? Bealtaine is the festival of summer. It's the festival that marks the beginning of summer. It's the festival that marks the beginning for the Celts, for the ancient Irish. It marks the beginning of the bright half of the year. Its equivalent at the beginning of winter is Samhain, which we commemorate still to this day with Halloween. Halloween is basically a long-running continuation of the original festival of Samhain. Now, you might be interested to hear that there are different dates of the year upon which it was traditional to light sacred fires in Ireland. Bealtaine was one of those dates. St. John's Eve, which was I suppose a Christianization of a pre-Christian festival associated with summer solstice, is another one, and Samhain, of course, with its bonfire. The Bealtaine fire is very specific because, well, first of all, we have indications that Bealtaine was celebrated in a fairly major way at Uisneach, which marks the heart of the country. And again, that's the reason we're talking about Uisneach tomorrow, and it's the reason we're talking about Eru the following evening. We want this few days to be packed with Bealtaine themes and activity. Why is Bealtaine important astronomically? Well, here is why. It marks the halfway point in days between vernal equinox and summer solstice. So if you were to count the number of days between the two and divide by 2, right in the middle there is Bealtaine. Now, there has been some discussion as to what the importance of equinox would have been, and for more on that, refer to the Mythical Ireland website at mythicalireland.com, and also, of course, to the Mythical Ireland Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. Now, astronomically, it may be argued that, if you were an ancient astronomer and you arrived in a fresh field, in an untouched piece of land, and you were trying to set down monuments and align said monuments, or a monument or a series of monuments, to various solar events in the year, the only two that could be described as hooks are the solstices, because what happens is the sun has a range. I'm trying to make sure my fingers are within the view of the cameras here. The sun has a range: summer solstice sunrise, winter solstice sunrise, and between this it travels up and down the horizon. You watch it every morning and it acts like a giant pendulum. It swings fastest in the middle and slowest at the solstices. So essentially what happens is winter solstice, it stops, it moves, and then it quickens up till it's at the equinox, and then it slows down again and stops at summer solstice. And then it does the same again, and it's moving quickest at the equinoxes, and then slows again down for the winter solstice. How would you mark that on the horizon? Well, you see, this is the thing. There's no hook for Bealtaine as there is none for Lunasa, and there's none for Imbolc, and there's none for Samhain on the horizon, as it were. But a greater awareness of the pattern of things and the cyclical nature of the seasons and the movement of the sun through the zodiac will soon yield certain clues. The significance for me, and this is something I figured out over the years, and it's very important, it is subtle, but yet it is very important. The cross-quarter days mark the times when the sun's movement along the horizon is either speeding up or slowing down. The solstices mark the points at which it is stopped completely. The equinoxes, the points at which it is moving the fastest. Now, I said about the cross-quarter days, marking the halfway point between, let's call it spring equinox and summer solstice in days. So you might think if you were to mark it on the horizon, it would be halfway between. No, it's not, because I said the sun is moving quickest at the equinoxes and slowest at the solstices. The cross-quarter date between vernal equinox and summer solstice, which is Bealtaine, is actually out here. It's closer to the solstice sunrise than it is to the equinox sunrise. So one can think of an oscillation. And you see this feature on megalithic art. We call it serpentine megalithic art. This up and down serpent that waves up and down. It's like a sine wave. Now, if you were to put a line through the middle of that sine wave, let's call it snake through heath, which I've seen it described as. And this is also described in a manuscript. It's drawn in one of the early manuscripts. So you can imagine that this is the sun's movement north and south of the celestial equator. So as it were, the heavenly equivalent of the Earth's equator. That the sun spends 6 months of the year above it and 6 months of the year below it. Now, the 6 months above do not start at Bealtaine and finish at Samhain. They actually start at vernal equinox and they finish at autumn equinox. So at vernal equinox, the sun's declination is 0, and then it climbs north until it reaches summer solstice. At autumnal equinox, it's at 0 again, but it's heading south. And at winter solstice, it is at its minimum declination. That sine wave translates into this movement along the horizon. And so that halfway point in days is actually not halfway point in horizon terms. However, what it does mark is there has been a very rapid expansion of the length of the days here in the northern hemisphere. For those Australian viewers, Adele and is it Mark in Australia right now, you're heading the opposite way. You're heading towards your winter, and your sun is slowing down for your winter solstice. Ours is slowing down for summer solstice. But it has been moving very rapidly since Imbolc, since February, which brackets the time when the sun's movement started speeding up again after winter solstice. So winter solstice, Imbolc, spring equinox, Bealtaine, summer solstice, Lunasa, autumn equinox, Samhain, and winter solstice. So these brackets are actually very important. These points, not the equinox. Well, the equinoxes and the solstices are important. The solstices are particularly important. But these midway points, which aren't midway on horizon terms, in day terms, are very important because they are the times when the sun's movement is either, as I said, picking up or slowing down. At the moment, we have now entered a period where the expansion of the length of the day is going to slow down quite noticeably. And as we reach June, there will be hardly any noticeable lengthening of the day, especially for a few weeks certainly a fortnight either side of summer solstice. You won't really notice any expansion or contraction of the day. And you will realize a maximum expansion or contraction of the day at the equinoxes. At the time of, I love when Imbolc kicks in at the beginning of February, because I know that the days are going to start lengthening dramatically. And I know that, for instance, at the beginning of March, it's dark at 6 p.m., but at the end of March, it's not dark till 9 p.m. It's a huge difference in the length of day in March. Of course, that is helped by the fact that we still put the clocks forward here in Ireland in late March on the last Saturday or the last Sunday morning after the last Saturday in March. I hope you're able to stay with me on this one. That is why it's astronomically important. So that's the foundational astronomy that is the basis of the celebration of this cross-quarter festival that, as I say, goes all the way back into prehistory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe and discuss from a few printed works the celebration of Bealtaine in the Irish and the Celtic world. But, you know, most works, as I said before, about Celtic mythology happened to concentrate on Ireland, because most of the surviving written mythology is in Ireland. So hang on, I'm just going to refer to my notes. I took notes for this episode and make sure that I've covered everything. So what distinguishes, I said the other night, people were saying Happy Bealtaine on May the 1st. And of course, that's absolutely valid and not at all pouring cold water on that. What distinguishes the ancient Bealtaine from the modern one is tied to the 1st of May. It's a convenience of the calendar. In fact, old Bealtaine was something like the 11th of May, because remember there was a calendar adjustment a number of centuries back, which involved, you know, the changing of dates, as it were. The original Bealtaine is tied not to a constructed calendar, as it were, like a foreign imported calendar. The original Bealtaine was tied very closely with the solstices and equinoxes, and as I say, halfway in days between both, and that's how you arrived at it. So it's calendrical and pre-Christian likely. One of the interesting things about the Bealtaine fire, as I said, is Idir na Gá Tine Bealtaine is the lighting of two fires between which you drove your cattle in order that they may be purified, kept free from disease and illness for the coming year, which of course is a very important thing right from the get-go, from the moment that the cattle arrive in Ireland, which is in the Neolithic. In the Stone Age at the time, that the great monuments of Sligo and Loughrew and Brunabónna were being built, or were about to be built. The cattle had been brought in. So from that moment, cattle are currency, as we said in previous episodes, and they're a very important measure of the economy and measure of the individual person's wealth. And of course, they were food as well as many other things. Well, milk and then meat at the end of it all. And don't forget leather for clothes and other things like bags and etc. etc. Bealtaine is a significant date in mythology, which we will see shortly. But anyway, I'll begin reading. So I'm just going to give a brief introduction to Bealtaine, and this is from our favourite, James McKillop's Oxford Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. And I marked the page and I can't find it now. Bealtaine, the seasonal feast fixed at 1st of May on the Gregorian calendar, or the 15th of May in Scotland. As the end of the dark half of the year, Bealtaine is a survival of one of the 4 great Celtic calendar feasts, known in early Ireland as Imbolc, which is in early February, Lunasa in early August, and Samhain in early November. The day was also known as Céit Samhain in Ireland. Its counterparts in Wales are unpronounceable: Kintafin, Dydd, Calan Mai, and Calan Mai. In Cornwall, Cala May, and in Brittany, Cala Hanve. Bealtaine may or may not derive from the veneration of Belinus, and I don't think I'm not at all sure about that. It was a good day to begin great projects. Both the Partholonians and the Milesians invaded Ireland on Bealtaine, according to Laura Gawala, the Book of Invasions. And there's just something very interesting about that, which I will get back to in a moment, once I have finished reading McKillop. Remind me about Amergin or Aurgin and Bealtaine. A great body of oral tradition is associated with Bealtaine, of which the Bealtaine fires and Bealtaine cakes or bannocks are the most significant. Great bonfires were built on Bealtaine in Ireland and on the Isle of Man. In Scotland, the fires might be on mountaintops. The fires could be called Tenne Aegin, need fire, or fire from rubbing sticks. In Cornwall, Cala May bonfires were still known in the late 20th century. An important ritual required herdsmen to drive their cattle between two fires as a way of preventing contagion through the next year. And I suggest that tomorrow, if it's at all possible, that you create two flames. If it is possible, create two flames, and let us think about imagining that we're driving ourselves between them in order to prevent further contagion in the coming year. In Scotland, effigies of witches were burned in the fire as late as the 18th century. People danced around the fire sunwise to the right. On the Isle of Man, they carried rowan branches or twigs. Hearth fires were extinguished and rekindled as an act of purification. And of course, sunwise was always the way to go. Jeshel, not Tual. And Tual, Tua, which means tribe, as you know. Tua is also a word that can mean sinister. It's a little bit like left, sinistre, sinister. And of course, the other word for Tual, which is anti-sunwise, is widdershins. And that is the way that Bowen went around the well of Necton before it erupted into a fountain. Bealtaine was a good time for the ritual eating of certain kinds of food. The Bealtaine cakes or bannocks were large, round and flat, usually made from oats or barley. They were large enough to be broken into several portions, one of which contained a black spot made by charcoal. And in Scotland, Dawn says they have bannock burn. There you go. The person who drew the by lot, the piece with the black spot, was the Bealtaine Carline or old hag. He or she might be subject to a mimed execution or being thrown into the fire or drawn and quartered. And of course, what was that about? That was about the execution of winter, the symbolic riddance of winter. It's bye-bye winter, it's summer now, please give us the summer weather. With regard to, this is very interesting, Idir na gá hinne Bealtaine, which exactly translated means between the two fires of Bealtaine, also is an expression in Irish, which means to be in a dilemma. So if you said that you were Idir na gá hinne Bealtaine, you would also be saying that you're in a dilemma, which I find very interesting. In relation to Amergin, Glungal, the bright need poet, bard of the Milesians, whose name probably means birth of song, arrived on behalf of the expedition of his brothers by placing his foot on the shore of the Boyne River in Inverculpa, just a couple of miles downstream of us here in Drogheda. According to the annals, around 1700 BC, 1694 BC. And this was a very interesting moment. It is described in Lower Gawala as taking place at Bealtaine, which is very interesting. But also very interesting, something that I recently found out about Amergin or Amergin, is that what I didn't realize, because I had never just read it, but Sherlock time, can't do everything, I suppose, is the fact that Amergin died at a place in the recesses or the back of Brea, B-R-E-G or B-R-E-G-A, Brea Plain, called Bealtaine, or Billa, as it's spelled in the Old Irish, Bealtaine, Biletened. But Tena is rendered in the notes of Lower Gawala Éireann as Tina, as in a fire, and Billa means a sacred tree. So he died at a place that is apparently marked as a townland near Moynalty in Kells in the northwest of County Meath today by a townland called Billywood, which is from Billa Chuile, which basically means the wood of the sacred tree. But I'm fascinated by the fact that Bealtaine sounds a little bit like Bealtaine. Now, I'm not suggesting that Bealtaine is a corruption of Bealtaine. I'm just saying that Amergin arrived at Bealtaine and he died at a place that sounds like Bealtaine, Bealtaine, or Bealtaine, and that the Tena in Bealtaine is from fire, and the Tina in Bealtaine is also from fire. One could argue about whether Baal could be a corruption of Billa, but I'm not sure, and I don't think that it is. I am now reading from Irish Folk Custom and Belief, Nosona agus Pishoga na Nail. And that was written by Sean O'Sullivan and published. I know that some of you will want to follow up on these books and perhaps add them to your collections. Published for the Cultural Relations Committee of Ireland by the Mercier Press in Cork in the year 1967, and this is the second edition, 1977. Sorry, Pat is saying Her Majesty is here. Oh, I apologise. Everybody genuflect. Your Majesty. Helen is in the house. A description of... Sorry. I need to start this in the right place. To judge by the hundreds of customs and beliefs which were associated with May Day, it must have been the most important annual festival in ancient Ireland. So there you go. I mean, here we're saying, you know, the most important. Both the eve of May Day and the day itself were important as signifying the start of summer and the coming in of the milk and butter produce, which were staple foods for our forefathers. Now, I'm just going to speak for me and my family, but we're big dairy fans of this house. We drink a lot of milk. We put a lot of butter on our bread. We like cheese. We like yogurt and all that stuff. Almost every custom and belief associated with them seems to have sprung from the need people felt to protect their livestock and preserve their luck at this crucial time. Summer was welcomed in by the carrying of green branches and flowers into the house by strewing them around the doors and windows. Hugamar Féin on Sauru Linn, we have brought the summer with us, is the name of an Irish song which was associated with this custom, which is still popular in many rural districts. A description of the precautions taken to protect the livestock at that time of year would fill a large volume. Holy water was, of course, sprinkled on the byre and cows in later times, but older precautions involved the recitation of charms, driving the cattle between blazing bonfires, and the tying of rings of rowan on the animals' tails. Red ribbons were attached to the manes and harnesses of horses too. Oh, there's people sharing links to the song. Brilliant stuff. Fantastic. Billywood. Yeah, Katrina, that Bealtaine, I'm not sure what you feel about the connection to Bealtaine. I just thought it was interesting. But it is in Onomasticon. This wonderful volume, which is one of the recent additions to the Mythical Ireland Library. Bealtaine Igoli C U for the Laibh Igoli Brea, which apparently means the back of or the recesses or some sheltered place in Brea. And I was excited and enthralled about the possibility that might have been close to Drogheda, because the coast marks the border of Brea. Its exact limits inland are not always precisely defined. But what I was glad to hear about was the fact that Aurigin or Amergin had died in Brea, because it means he died somewhere in this locality. Erimone, who was the first Milesian king, his brother, died at Aragat Ross, which is very specifically located. I think it's close to Kilkenny City. Is it Kilkenny? I can't remember offhand now. But it's down the country. But the fact that there was a tradition in Drogheda in the 18th and 19th centuries that said that Aurigin was buried at Millmount in Drogheda, I just wonder where this comes from, because it's not mentioned in any of the manuscripts where Aurigin was buried. In Laur Gawala, in the Roll of Kings, it very specifically says that Erimone was killed at Aragat Ross and that his burial mound was constructed there, and that's where he was buried. In the case of Aurigin, he was killed at Bealtaine, but it does not say where he was buried, which I find fascinating. And it's not a great stretch of the imagination to envisage the idea that he was killed in one part of Brea and brought to be buried very close to where he had first landed in Ireland, actually overlooking the spot where he had landed. Anyway, I digress, and I'm going off on a tangent, and please forgive me. Reference has already been made to the means traditionally adopted to protect the cows, the milk, and the churn, and all of these were more important than ever at Maytime, when evilly disposed persons would try to steal a whole year's profit by magic. So people guarded their wells on May Eve and May morn, and it was believed that they were intimately connected with the family's prosperity. By bailing a neighbour's well water in the direction of her own home, or by drawing a rope or cloth over the dew on a neighbour's grass on May morn, while chanting, "Come all to me," a hag was supposed to be able to steal the potential produce of milk and butter for herself. As a counter to this, were put into the well. I have already described how no coal of fire would be allowed out of a house while churning was in progress. Similarly, people did not light their fires early on May Day as a further precaution. In olden times, and still in some districts, people did not work at all on May Day. And funnily enough, it is a bank holiday here in Ireland. Well, I mean, it's not obviously always on May the 1st, but today is Monday the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you, by the way. This is a bank holiday today, so no work as such today, but in my case, I was working all day long on my new book. Being associated with a Cian Féile, or a chief festival, May Eve, and May Day were supposed to be times of greater than usual activity among supernatural beings, and this is also fascinating. Every lush or fairy fort in Ireland was said to be open that night, and their inhabitants moved abroad in great numbers, often changing their residence at that time. So this is a tradition not only associated with Samhain, where the veil is said to be at its thinnest and all that, the veil between this world and the next world. Bealtaine was another time when you had to be aware of the movements of the supernatural beings associated with the old monuments. By the way, Katrina says it's Cailleach, not hag. Of course, hag is a very poor translation, and Cailleach is a word, really, isn't it, that shouldn't be translated at all. It should just be left as it is. Thus, people were loath to be out late on May Eve, and many stories were told of the strange experiences of those who took the risk. Other strange things were said to happen too. Enchanted riders like Donal O'Donoghue rode on a white horse with silver shoes over the lakes of Killarney. Bewitched rocks moved from place to place, and mermaids were often seen. Like all chief festivals, May Eve was a great time for attempts at divining the future, but these cannot be listed here. Owing to the change in the calendar, most of the customs and beliefs which are attached to old May Day, now May the 11th, came to be transferred to the new date. They are now becoming only a memory, except in some areas where the old ways of thought still hold sway. And last, by no means least, I'm going to read about the modern May Day traditions. And I have to be honest with you, such is the wealth of traditions associated with Bealtaine. Wow. So I'm quite genuine. There are at least 30, perhaps 40 pages in this wonderful book, which is called The Year in Ireland, Irish Calendar Customs by Kevin Danaher, Caoimhín O'Donoghue, Kevin Danaher. And this was published by the Mercier Press in 1972. If you're up for it, we could come back to Bealtaine after later in the week, perhaps Thursday, because there's no way we're going to get through all this. But I'll give you a sample anyway. May Day. Hang on, one thing. I'm just conscious of whether I've left out anybody. Paul, who's the Royal Tara Ranger, says it's breezy out tonight. My matches keep going out. Yes, you need to shelter those matches. Will there be summer solstice? There'll be a summer solstice, all right, but as to what we'll be doing. Sandrine says, scholars, academics, always the same old story. I follow you in your theory. Astronomy is the key in many native cultural rites. And indeed, that is what I'm writing about, Sandrine, in my new book. Hopefully, when it's finished, you'll all be interested in reading it. Leland Gaunt says, I know plenty of people who go for the blossoming of the hawthorn as a time marker. Yeah, absolutely. A natural sort of marker of the year. I was challenged recently on a video that I did last year on the way to Ishnok, I think that was the 6th of May last year. I was challenged by a commenter who said that Bealtaine was located or tied down by the appearance of the Pleiades in the morning, a heliacal rising. But as I said to that might have been in conjunction with the other calendrical movements and movements of the sun, etc. But you couldn't have determined the precise date of Bealtaine just using the Pleiades, because the heliacal rising of the Pleiades is something that lasts over a long period of time. Leland Gaunt says there are Lithuanian, Polish, and other traditions of burning effigies of the goddess of winter, often depicted as an old woman or witch, like the Kalyak. Office Care 36 says, Anto, what about Slieve Bra in RD? Hello from Woodies in the Woodsies in Monaster Boys. Yeah, Slieve Bra is from Slieve Bra or Slieve Bray, which is that range of hills. We were talking about that just in the past few days, weren't we? I can't remember. Was it the Onomasticon Gaelicum episode 50? I think we were talking about that. That's maybe one Woodsies you might want to go back to, actually, because I talk about the significance of Slieve Bray or Slieve Bra. Kerem Gogus is in the house. Hello, Kerem. Sorry I missed you earlier. And I know that lots of people have been commenting. It's kind of very difficult for me now to keep up with comments and to try. And Jim Daly is watching. Fáilte, Jim, good evening to you. The book is no longer in print and not going to be again, as far as I know, says Michelle. Yeah, this is why part of what I've been trying to do with my library is not only to collect the popular works, is to collect those which relate to the original sources, like the Laura Gawala and like the Dinshanicus and Copmaitura and all that, but also those works that are, out of print and precious, to try and understand all this stuff. So, folks, I'm going to have to kind of skip over your comments. I'm kind of hoping that anything that you have in terms of questions that you're asking each other and you're helping each other with the answers. No, Katrina in particular, on Creoch, I have to give particular thanks to, because Katrina is always sharing a lot of information and links while I'm talking, which is great because it enables me to concentrate on the reading. I mean, I'm conscious of the fact it's 52 minutes in, and I mean there are 40 pages of May traditions here. I mean, I could literally, starting now, I could go probably for another 2 hours, but I'll read a little bit and sure we'll see how we get on. May Day, the first day of summer, was a most important landmark in the Irish countryman's year. It was a Gale Day, Gale, when his tenancy began or ended, on which a half year's rent must be paid to the landlord. This is mentioned in a letter to Sir Henry Sidney to the Privy Council in 1576. And because at May Day, commonly, the Irish captains and lords used to bargain and compound with their tenants. That's a quote. The letting of grazing and meadowing usually dated from 1st of May, and farm servants and workmen were hired at this time. Hiring fairs were held in many places, to which those seeking work, both men and women, came, often carrying symbols of their skill, a spancel which told that its bearer was an expert milker, or a spade, hay fork, reaping hook, flail, or other implement. Farmers and others needing servants and workpeople came to these fairs, and bargains were struck between employers and workers, because of the change introduced at the adoption in Ireland of the Gregorian calendar. These fairs, in common with others that were held since 1752 on the 11th and 12th day after their original festival day, thus, in many parts of Ireland, especially in Ulster, servants' and workmen's terms began on 12th of May. May Day, too, was important, too, in the work of the farm as the beginning of the fresh grass season. Cattle which had been sheltered in the byres and stall-fed during the winter and spring were turned out into the pasture fields, and from now onwards, on many farms, milked morning and evening in the fields, twice a day milking. This was the season for sending the cattle to the Buaile, B-U-A-I-L-E, anglicised Booley, B-O-O-L-E-Y, the summer pastures in moorland or mountain, in those areas where this practice was observed. Sheep and dry cattle were moved from the home fields into the rougher pastures, and shepherds docked their lambs' tails and castrated the young rams. Those fields intended for meadow were carefully cleared of stones and other obstructions which might hinder the reapers or injure their implements, and were fenced with care to keep wandering animals out. All the spring work, the tilling of the soil to produce crops, should have been finished by May Day. This was also the time when turf cutting began and when Turberry was rented. To have hay still left in the haggard at May Day was a sign of good husbandry and a matter of pride to the farmer. The housewife, too, took stock of her store. She should, if she had managed thriftily, still have meal for bread baking and for porridge. Sir Henry Piers, in his description of Westmeath in 1682, tells us, quote, "They have a custom every May Day, which they count their first day of summer, to have to their meal one formal dish, whatever else they have, which some call stirabout or hasty pudding, that is, flour and milk boiled thick. And this is holden as an argument of the good wives' good housewifery, that made her corn hold out so well, as to have such a dish to begin summer fare with. For if they can hold out so long with bread, they can do well enough for what remains of the year till harvest. For then milk becomes plenty, and butter, new cheese, and curds, and shamrocks are the food of the meaner sort all this season. Nevertheless, in this mess on this day, they are so formal that even in the plentifullest and greatest houses, where bread is in abundance all year long, they will not fail of this dish, nor yet they that for a month before wanting bread." Signs of the weather, the appearance of the sky, and of the May moon, the strength and direction of the wind, the amount of rain, were all carefully noted on May Day as indications of the coming summer's weather. A cold east wind was a bad sign, while frost was ominous of hard times to come. And while the people of Inishowen, that's in Donegal, as John O'Donovan tells us in the Ordnance Survey Letters of Donegal 1835, expected to see snow still on Slieve Schnacht, a North Wexford tradition recalls that snow on Crochan Kinsella on May Day was so evil an omen that local farmers expected their landlord to forego the rent for the coming half year. Rain was expected and welcomed during the coming month. Quote, "A wet and windy May fills the barns with corn and hay," quote, and "A wet May and a dry June make the farmer whistle a tune. And with the coming of the nectar-laden summer blossoms, quote, a swarm of bees in May is worth a load of hay," unquote. In different parts of the country, it was held that one should not dig, whitewash, bathe, or sail on May Day. The various explanations given for these prohibitions indicate, on the one hand, a reluctance to engage in any activity which might seem to have a magical purpose, and on the other, a feeling that danger was to be avoided at a time when ill luck or evil influence might prevail. In Ireland, as in most parts of Western Europe, the principal customs and ceremonies of Maytime were those which welcomed the summer. Whatever the origin of these, they were in recent centuries mainly of a festive character, an opportunity for merrymaking and holiday fun. Nevertheless, there lay behind them a slight element of the magical. Isn't everything in Ireland imbued with a slight sense of the magical? The children set up their May bush in the same spirit in which we hang out our flags on a national holiday, to celebrate an occasion, but some, at least, of their parents were glad of the feeling of protection against unseen forces which the May bush gave. Perhaps the commonest custom of all, examples of which might be cited for every county in Ireland, was the picking and bringing home of fresh flowers. That these were nearly always yellow flowers may have some significance, but probably means no more than that most flowers then in bloom are yellow: primroses, cowslips, buttercups, marigolds, furze blossoms. And of course, we were talking, weren't we, last week or the week before, about the gorse or furze or whins that certainly in April were in absolutely full blooming yellow, bright blossom. Usually these were gathered before dusk on May Eve by the children, although in many places the tradition lingers that they should be picked before dawn on May Day. The children usually made posies of the flowers, small bouquets which they hung up in the house or laid on the doorsteps or windowsills or hung over the door. Sometimes loose flowers were strewn on thresholds and floors of house and byre, or on roofs, or in and around the well, or on the paths leading to house outbuildings or well. Sometimes those who took the first water from the well left flowers there as a sign of their success. Some people tied small bunches of flowers to horses' bridles. This is noted in his diary by Evelyn O'Sullivan in 1829. A cold, windy, cloudy, dark day. Green branches in blossom on the mail coach horses at 6:30 coming from Dublin. And then in 1830, the month of May 1830, the first day, Saturday, a fair day in Mullinahone, a moderate price for cattle, a showery day, a brisk south wind in the morning, a west wind towards close of day. It changed by degrees or gradually, the mail coach bedecked with a May bush, the horses adorned with beautiful little flowers. They are a glad sight. Others tied posies to the cows' horns or tails, to churn dashes and milk pail handles. In these cases, the protective element was at least as strong as the festive. For many people, there was a religious motive in gathering May flowers, as these were picked in honour of Our Lady or of the angels, and were used to decorate the household altar or a little altar or shrine set up by the children, especially for the festival. Pardon me. Some made a cross of flowers on a base of twigs or slips of wood and hung this up prominently. Where there were old or lonely or helpless people, the neighbours' children, voluntarily or prompted by their parents, usually picked flowers for these. Isn't that wonderful? In southwest County Cork, instead of flowers, or together with flowers, the long leaves of flaggers were placed on the doorsteps and windowsills, or used to decorate the dresser, although the plant is usually not yet in flower in the area until late May or early June. That is Iris pseudacorus, Pseudacorus. In Cape Clear Island, which is the most southerly island off the southern coast of Ireland, bunches of flaggers were put out in the fishing boats for luck. In most parts of Munster, however, it was more usual to pick and bring to the house May boughs rather than flowers, small branches of newly leafed trees. As the verse says, Cullen agus cull, trum agus carchan, agus funcho gyal o velan aha, holly and hazel, elder and rowan, and bright ash from beside the ford o velan aha. Katrina is saying lots here, and it's brilliant. Thank you for your help, Katrina. In much of County Cork, sycamore, locally called summer tree, was the favourite May bough. These May boughs were, like the flowers, used to decorate the kitchen, to lay on doorsteps and window ledges, or on the roofs of house and byre. They were also, in places, set up in the farmyard or in the fields, where they were held to guard against ill luck and evil influence, particularly where branches of mountain ash were so used. Different growths were believed to be lucky or unlucky. These varied greatly from place to place, and whitethorn, blackthorn, elder, broom, woodbine, snowdrops, firs, alder, and other plants and trees might be or should not be brought into the house according to local custom. The setting up of a green bough in the farmyard brings us to our next popular method of welcoming the summer, the May bush. Camden, in his Britannia, writing of the middle 16th century, records, quote, upon the calends of the first day of May, they fully believe that to set a green bough of a tree before their houses will cause them to have great abundance of milk all summer long, unquote. And it is only a short step from this to the decorated bush mentioned by Sir Henry Piers in his description of County Westmeath in 1682. Quote, on May Eve, every family sets up before their door a green bush strowed over with yellow flowers, which the meadows yield plentifully. Commonest in Leinster, this is unquote, commonest in Leinster, where it was known in every county and also popular in South and West Ulster and in a few areas of Munster and Connacht, the May bush was a branch or clump of some suitable tree or shrub, among which white thorn was the most popular, which was cut down, brought home, and set up before the house or in some other conspicuous place and decorated with flowers, ribbons, paper streamers, and other bright scraps of material. White thorn is hawthorn, isn't it? In some places, garlands of eggshells were hung on it. Often these were the coloured or decorated shells of Easter eggs, which were saved for the May bush by the children. Sometimes candles or rushlights were attached to the bush and lit at dusk on May Eve. Lucy Robinson is out of the house, has to go. Catch up with the rest in the morning. Slán go fóil, Lucy. In Monaghan, according to Wilde, in Irish popular superstitions, quote, the May bush used to be erected several days before the festival and was illuminated every night. And in addition, pyramids of penny dips, fixed in lumps of yellow clay, used to be erected in the neighbourhood of the bush, which always stood upon some green or common or at the crossroads or in the marketplace of the town or village, unquote. Coda is for some reason getting restless. Perhaps he is hungry and calling for his supper. In County Kildare, towards the end of the last century, quote, the May bush was cut the day previous and stuck in the ground in front of the house. It was decorated with all the eggshells which had been saved up since Easter Sunday, along with ribbons, wild flowers, and bits of candles. On May night, the latter were lit and dancing took place around the May bush. This custom is of pagan origin, though and always in my work, instead of pagan, I say pre-Christian. Though at the present time it is thought by the people that it is carried out in honour of the Blessed Virgin Mary, to whom the month of May is dedicated. While in Laois in 1939, quote, on the 30th of April, in nearly all parts of this county, a hawthorn branch or bush is cut and brought home and set in position in front of the dwelling house. The bush is usually a holly, but sometimes any leafless bough will serve. It is decorated with eggshells, coloured paper, bunches of flowers, ribbons, etc. The bush is left in position in some districts until the end of the month, in others only until the decorations are withered and crumbling. The bush is usually thrown out, but other families burn it. The eggshells are saved for weeks beforehand, and those of the eggs eaten on Easter morning are specially prized. Occasionally, a suitably situated growing bush might be decorated as a May bush. In more recent times, the May bush has been almost entirely a matter for the children, who might request adult help where the task was too great for their strength or skill, for instance, in cutting or setting up the bush, and who, in places, went in a group around the village or in the townland, carrying the bush and asking for contributions of material to decorate it, or of sweets and other goodies, or money with which to buy these. In North County Dublin, until recently, one might be accosted by children chanting, long life and a pretty wife, and a candle for the May bush, expecting not a candle, but a small gift of money. In former times, it was in many areas very much an adult affair, as witness Sir William Wilde's account of the doings in Dublin in the late 18th century. Quote, the preparation for the May Day sports and ceremonial in Dublin commenced about the middle of April, and even earlier, and a rivalry which often led to the most fearful riots was incited, particularly between the Liberty boys upon the south and the Ormond boys upon the north side of the river, and even among themselves as to which street or district would exhibit the best dressed and handsomest May bush, or could boast the largest and hottest bonfire. For weeks before, a parcel of idle scamps, male and female, devoted themselves to the task of, quote, collecting for the May, unquote, that's quote within a quote, and parties decorated with ribbons and carrying green boughs and sometimes escorted by itinerant musicians went from house to house, soliciting contributions of ribbons, handkerchiefs, and pieces of gaudy silk, materials then manufactured and consequently more common in the Liberty than now, to adorn the May bush. Upon May Eve, a crowd of persons, often numbering several hundreds, resorted to the spot previously arranged with saws, hatchets, ropes, cars, horses, and all the necessary tackle for cutting and carrying home the May bush, and were generally escorted by fifers and fiddlers. Serious rencontres very often ensued upon these occasions, particularly in the neighbourhood of Dublin, where the authorities had frequently to interfere to prevent some lawn or demesne being despoiled of its wide-spreading thorn. The trophy was, however, generally carried off in triumph amidst the shouts and rejoicings of the people, and erected in its allotted station, and upon its branches were fixed a number of small candles, which at nightfall were lighted. Doesn't this all sound like a May or a summer version of the Christmas tree? And afforded them a brilliant illumination for the dancers, who tripped it round this emblem of the vernal light, and as is still practiced in Germany on Christmas Eve. Speak of Christmas, early upon May morning, the bush was decorated with flowers, ribbons, and pieces of silk, and the most of the most gaudy colours. And at the conclusion of the festivities, the bush was consigned to the flames of the expiring bonfire. In former days, the Liberty Bush was cut in Cullen's Wood. Efforts were often made, particularly in the city of Dublin, to steal away the May bush, to avert which a guard of stout fellows was set to keep watch and ward nightly from time of its erection until after the festival. It was believed that whoever succeeded in stealing the May bush also stole away the year's luck from the rightful owners. From South County Monaghan, we read, my grandfather had to rise out with all the neighbours to defend a local May bush about 1840. While the most famous incident of the kind is that described in Ireland 60 years ago, and that was published in 1843, so we're talking about in the late 18th century, between two rival factions in Dublin. A memorable contest of this kind, in which the weavers cut down the bush of the butchers, is thus celebrated in song. De May bush, de night afore de fust of Magay, de rigi dee, riri dum dee. We all did agree, without any delay, to cut a May bush, so we pegged it away. Riri rigi dee dum dee. I attempted to sing that in a thick Dublin accent. I don't know whether I succeeded or not. The leader of the boys was Bill Durham, a familiar corruption of Dermot, his right name, a distinguished man at that time in the Liberty riots. When the tree was cut down, it was borne back in triumph with Bill astride on it, exhibiting a classical picture, still more graphic than the gem of Bacchus astride on his ton. Bill Durham, he sat astride on his bush, ree-riggedy-ree-ree-dum-dee, and there he kept singing, as sweet as a thrush, his falchion in one hand, his pipe in the mush, ree-ree-riggedy-dee-dum-dee. I unfortunately don't know the music. I don't know the melody. The bush, having been planted in Smithfield, contributions were raised to do it honour, and among other contributors were the fishwomen of Pill Lane, who, from contiguity of situation and similarity of dealing, were closely allied to the butchers of Ormond Market. A custom prevailed here of selling the fish brought for sale to the women who retailed it by auction, the auctioneer, generally one of themselves, holding a plaice or a haddock by the tail instead of a hammer, knocked down the lot to the highest bidder. This was an important time to the trade, yet the high-minded poissards, like their Parisian sisters, quote, sacrificed everything to their patriotic feelings and abandoned the market, even at this crisis, to attend de bush. From de lane came each lass in her holy day gown, ree-riggedy-ree, ree-dum-dee. Though the haddock was up and the lot was knocked down, they doused all their sieves till they riz the half-crown, ree-riggedy-dum-dee. After indulging in the festivities of the occasion round de bush, D-E-B-U-S-H, some returned and some lay about, vino somnoque sepulti, presumably in a drunken state, and so not watching with due vigilance, the Liberty boys stole on their security, cut down and carried off the bush. The effect on Bill Durham, when he heard the adversary passing on their way back with the trophy, is thus described. Bill Durham, being up the night afore, ree-riggedy-ree-ree-dum-dee, was now in his flea park taking a snore when he heard the mob pass by his door. Ree-riggedy-dum-dee. Yes, fantastic stuff. Closely associated with May bushes were bonfires. I'm going to have to wind up shortly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're almost 10 pages in, and there's another 30 to go. Closely associated with the May bushes were bonfires. This was especially the case in Dublin, where great fires were lit around which the revellers caroused. Elaborate preparations were made for these too. Thus Wilde said, turf, coals, old bones, particularly slugs of cows' horns from the tan yards, and horses' heads from the knackers, logs of wood, etc., were also collected, to which some of the merchants generally added a few pitch and tar barrels. Money was solicited to, quote, moisten the clay, unquote, of the revellers, for whether from liking or from fear, or considering it unlucky, few ventured to refuse to contribute something towards the May bush. The ignitable materials were formed in depots, in backyards, and cellars of old houses. And by the way, that still happens today in advance of Halloween. The young lads going around collecting wooden pallets and other bits of wood and tires, old car tires, etc., and stashing them in their sheds or behind houses or in places until Halloween is coming and they start building their bonfire, long before the approaching festival. And several sorties were made by opposing factions to gain possession of these hoards, and lives have been lost in the skirmishes which ensued. It was serious stuff. In Dublin, the bonfires were always lighted upon the evening of May Day, and generally in the vicinity of the May bush. The Great Fire was, as we already mentioned, at the lower end of the Coombe, but there were also fires in the centre and at the top of that classic locality. The weavers had their fire in Weavers Square, the hatters and pipe makers in the upper end of James's Street and the neighbourhood of St John's Well near Kilmainham, beside Bully's Acre, generally exhibited a towering blaze. Upon the north side of the city, the best fire blazed in Smithfield, with the exception of one ancient rite, that of throwing into it the May bush. There were but few pagan ceremonies observed at the metropolitan fires. A vast crowd collected. Whisky was distributed galore, both to those who had and had not gathered the morning's dew. The entire population of the district collected round the bush and the fire, the elder portion, men and women, bringing with them chairs or stools to sit out the wake of the winter and spring, according to the olden usage. The best singers in the crowd lilted up. The night before Larry was stretched, or high for de sweet liberty, but then the popular air of the baiting of Lord Alcombe's bull and De May bush, and another local song of triumphal commemoration of a victory over the Ormond market men, a verse of which we remember. Begone, ye cowardly scoundrels, do ye remember the day that yez came down to Newmarket and stole the sweet May bush away, were the most popular and deservedly admired from their allusions to the season and the locality. Fiddlers and pipers plied their fingers and elbows, and dancing, shouting, revelry and debauchery of every description succeeded till, at an advanced hour of the night, the scene partook more of the nature of the ancient Saturnalia than anything we can at present liken it to, except that which a London mob now exhibits the night preceding the execution in the Old Bailey or at Horsemonger Lane Jail. There are traditions from many areas to show that the lighting of bonfires on May Eve was common and widespread, but this custom has almost entirely died out. In Limerick City, May Eve is still bonfire night, and until recently, children in Belfast lit small fires in the side streets in honour of their May Queens. The rural custom survived longest, and of course that's always the case, isn't it? Perhaps in the southeast, where in County Waterford and in the southern fringes of counties Kilkenny and Tipperary, there still are memories of the cattle being driven through small fires or between pairs of fires, or of wisps or coals from the bonfire being used to singe the cow's hair or to bless the fields of growing crops. The tradition of setting up May poles as against May bushes is also known in Ireland, although here again there can be a confusion of tradition, as when a May bush was tied to the top of a long stake set in the ground, called indiscriminately bush or pole, as was the case in parts of the North Midlands. However, there are from several places, most of them significantly towns in Leinster and East Ulster, descriptions or traditions of the setting up of tall, decorated poles, like that still standing in Hollywood, County Down, and of dancing and other celebrations around these. So in Sir Henry Piers Westmeath, we read in continuation of his mention of the May bush, quote, "And in countries where timber is plentiful, they erect tall, slender trees which stand high, and they continue almost the whole year. So as, a stranger would go nigh to imagine that there were all signs of ale cellars and that all houses were ale houses," which might indicate that the custom was formerly widespread in country districts. We may note that in counties Westmeath, Longford, Laois, Offaly and Kildare, and in the southern part of County Leitrim, together forming a continuous area in the North Midlands, and including the locality of which Sir Henry Piers wrote in 1682, there was the custom of calling the outdoor dances, which began to be held at this time of year, called Maypole dances, and of the setting up of a small pole called a Maypole at the crossroads where the dance was held. Even yet, within this area, one may see an ordinary dance held in a dance hall, advertised at this time of year as the Maypole dance. And I think that we're going to have to leave it there for tonight. I'm conscious of the fact that We are an hour and 20 minutes in. I know that the first 20 minutes were spent greeting you all, and nice to see so many of you in the house this evening. I'm not sure what comments I've been missing because I have been reading continuously. Office Care, who are the Woodses in Monaster Boys, say Bully's Acre in Drogheda has Jan Truchra Orhu in cast iron above the gates. Dean Truchra, Trochre Orhu. What does that mean? I don't know. Going barefoot at dawn on the grass was to receive a blessing from the out-breath of the Great Mother, the dew, says Sarah Clare. Lovely, lovely, beautifully expressed, yes. Godbody Sean News, and I don't know what your real name is, says salute Mythical Ireland and salute to the chat. First time here, amazing info. You're very welcome along, and if you would care to give us your real name, we'll give you a big Cade meal of fáilte. We may continue that. I mean, there is enough material certainly to do another episode, isn't there? The only thing is we're doing Ishnok tomorrow and we're doing Eru the following day, so we may have to delay the second part of our Bealtaine, but let's go back to it because I think it's worthwhile. There's so much material there. It's incredible. It really is. And so tomorrow night, after our Ishnok episode at 21 minutes past 9, I'm going to light a fire, and I hope you all do too. Take pictures, live stream, take videos, share them all on the Ishnok page, share them all on the Mythical Ireland community. And maybe we'll put together some sort of a video. And maybe I will put together some sort of a video. And even if it's just a still picture, I'll add it into the video. And maybe you can all send me your stuff. But we'll try and organize that maybe tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we'll talk about Eru. And then on Thursday, perhaps we'll go back to Bealtaine and read about the rest of the traditions. A significant amount of folk traditions around the celebration of May Day. What was the book? The book was The Year in Ireland, Irish Calendar Customs by Kevin Danaher. And earlier we have been reading from Irish Folk Custom and Belief, Nosana agus Pishoga na Nail by Sean O'Sullivan. So there you go. Night crew. 9:21 for the fire. Yes, 9:21 p.m. So exactly this time tomorrow night. This isn't 21 minutes past 9 Irish time. It is 21 minutes past 21 now here in Ireland. So this time tomorrow night, the fire is going to be lit on Ishnok by the keeper, by the custodian of the land there and his family. And I believe it's going to be live streamed on the Ishnok page. So what we'll do is we'll go over to the Ishnok page and we'll watch that. And then I think we'll go and light our own fires. Doesn't that sound like a great idea? So I'm sorry if I missed comments. Do, as always, feel free to reach out to me by private message on the Mythical Ireland Facebook or by email at mythicalireland@gmail.com. Just be aware that I may not always be able to answer you within a couple of hours of messaging. I am working tomorrow, and in addition to the lunchtime broadcast at Douth, I'll be doing live myths tomorrow evening and lighting the fire. And I'm trying to write a book, so it's not always possible to answer all of the correspondence. And there has been quite a lot of it lately, and I welcome it all. And it really is wonderful, and it's so wonderful, in fact, that this great tribe that we've gathered, this great Tua, are so interactive, and you're all so welcoming to each other, and it's lovely to see all the discussion that goes on. But just bear in mind that I am only one person, so that if you're asking questions and you want me to find more information for you in obscure sources, it may take me time to do that, and I just beg for your patience and your forgiveness if I'm not able to immediately answer your messages. Anyway, in the meantime, Kolosov, have a good sleep, and we'll see you all tomorrow night. Can you share a link to that page on the site? Which page, John, are you asking about? Is it the Ishnok page? I'm not sure which one it is you're asking about. In the meantime, we will catch up with you tomorrow evening at the same time, 8 p.m, when we'll be talking about Ishnok, just in advance of the Ishnok fire. And that, I can promise you, is going to be a very, very interesting episode. Ishnok is such a wonderful, wonderful, magical place, and very important to the mythology and the culture and the geography and the geology and the everythingology of Ireland. It is just of supreme importance. So see you all then. In the meantime, keep washing your hands, stay safe, stay socially isolated if that's what you have to do. Keep your distance from people, and come back to us tomorrow. Ichawa Kolosov Tua Mo bhannacht oribh slán go fóil. And YouTubers, to you also, mo bhannacht oribh agus slán go fóil.